Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I am Azra Assan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
President appoints committee to submit a report on gas explosions in 2 weeks. CID should investigate the explosions, a request by the opposition leader in parliament. Was the power cut to 1/4 of the country intentional? CEP requests CID to conduct an investigation. Sri Lanka to import 20,000 metric tons of rice from Myanmar. Import bill to stand at $9 million. A warning by State Minister Arundika to foreign companies.
අසීමිතව මේක පාලනය කරන අසීමිත ලාභ ලබනවා ඒ ගණ්ඩ තියෙන ඉහළම තීන්දුව අරගෙන හරි ඒක කරන්න ඕන බහුජාතික සමාගම් වලටත් කියන්න තියෙන්නේ එහෙමයි.
Putlam Pradesh Sabha chairman opposes State Minister Sanat Nishanta.
වරකරන් හිටියේ දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ මල පෙරේතය බූරින් භූත වෙලා වැඩ කරන්න සත්‍ය ලැබේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරමි.
12 smaller parties prepared to quit the government.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has appointed a committee to study the recent gas explosions in the country. The President's Media Division said the President has called for a report from the committee in 2 weeks.
Professor Shanta Valpola from the Moratuwa University will head the committee appointed by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to study the gas explosions. Senior DIG Deshabandhu Tennakun, Professor Ajit Dialvis, Professor W.D.W. Jayathilaka and Professor Pradeep Jayavira are among the other members. Professor Narayan Sirimuthu, the Commissioner of the Sri Lanka Investors Commission, HPP Sudarshana Somasiri, the Additional Director General of the Industrial Technology Institute, and Sujiva Mahagama, the Senior Deputy Director of the Sri Lanka Standards Institute, have also been appointed to the committee. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa told Parliament today that a criminal investigation must be conducted into the recent gas explosions.
The Criminal Investigations Department must immediately investigate this. We must punish those responsible by bringing them before the law. When the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation gives me the reports, I will table them in Parliament. There is nothing to hide. But the first duty is not to table them in Parliament. We will pass them to the Moratuwa University. We will obtain their recommendations in line with these reports. We will take the necessary measures. Everyone at the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation knows the results, that the cylinders contain 49% propane and 51% butane. Why aren't you providing these reports to Parliament, as the situation is dangerous? Can you assure that the cylinders in the market don't have a composition of 50% each of propane and butane? Neither me nor you can test 2 cylinders and determine whether the composition is 50-50. That is why they have been sent to the laboratories for tests. I feel that both sides have agreed that this is a serious matter. The safety of the people is paramount. I wish to thank the opposition leader and the minister, but I have a request to make. That is to convene a meeting of the consultative committee tomorrow and to instruct the minister and the relevant officials to respond to the questions of the MPs. That's because this is a problem concerning the people's lives.
අපිට බැරිද දැන් මේ ਸਰව පාක්ෂිකව හැමෝටම එකඟ වෙන්න සිලෙක්ට් කමිටියක් පත් කරන්න තේරීම් කාරක සභාව දෙනාම හෙට උදේ මේ කමිටියට එන්න ඇවිල්ලා කරුණු ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා ඇතුළු සියලුම
I am requesting the opposition leader, all party leaders and everyone who is not on the committee to attend the meeting. What the people need is a solution to stop this. A technical approach is needed to stop this. The government has the responsibility of providing a technical solution.
More than 10 gas explosions have been reported in the country since last night. One explosion had occurred at a house in Imaduwa, Galle, around 8 last night. No injuries were reported.
කෑම පියමින් ඉන්නකොට මම දුවට කිව්වා ලිප ඔෆ් කරලා එන්න කියලා. ලිප ඔෆ් කරලා දරුව ගෙට එනකොටම චටපට ගාලා සද්දයක් ඇහුණා. ඇවිල්ලා දුවලා බලනකොට ලිපේ වීදුරු කෑලි ගේ පුරාම විසිරලා තිබුණා. මටවත් හිතා ගන්න බැහැ නමුත් මොකද්ද උනේ කියලා.
A gas leak had caused an explosion at a house in Thilinagama, Meerigama at around 8 last night. A gas explosion had occurred at the house of Indra Airangani, an urban councillor in Ambalangoda, at around 10 last night.
මට හිතා ගන්න බෑ මොකද උනේ කියලා මේ උයපු කෑම වලන් හැම එකෙම කන්න නැහැ ඔක්කොම ඒවා මේ වීදුරු කටු.
A gas leak had caused an explosion at a house in Aturugiriya at around 6:50 this morning. No injuries were reported due to the explosion.
මම උදේ වතුර ලිපේ තිබ්බා උදේට ඇදුවා හොඳලා ගෑස් එක ඔෆ් කරලා හැරුණා විතරයි මේ කුකුරනකොට නම් පිටේ වාජනා වලට ඉඳන් වීදුරු කටු විසික්කුණා. ඒකට කෑල්ලක් එහෙලා වෙදිලා මේ වුණා. ඩක් ගාලා මහත්තයා ගලවලා අයින් කරා එතකොටම.
Another explosion caused by a gas leak was reported at an eatery in Bibile last night. The explosion had damaged the gas stove. A gas explosion had also occurred at a house in Kumbugoda in Ambilipitiya. The explosion had damaged the gas stove, but no injuries were reported.
ලිප පත්තු කරලා තියෙද්දි ඇලෝලෝ ලිපේ තියෙනකොට තිබිලා මේ මම එළියට ගියා. කුස්සියට දුවගෙන ආවිල්ලා බලනකොට මේ අම්මේ ලිප පුපුරලා ඉක්මනට එන්න කිව්වා. සද්ද ඇහුණා අයියේ.
Professor Sirisena expressed these views on the matter during the Jatika Mehevara program on our channel today.
How can we inquire into this if we don't know the facts? Do the cylinders indicate the composition of propane and butane? Nothing has been mentioned. Has the temperature, low pressure and high pressure levels of the cylinder been mentioned? The Sri Lanka Standards Institute must issue an instruction. The company has changed the composition of gas in the cylinder, but the regulator has not been changed. That needs to happen. The security of the people should be given priority in the country. When we talk about security, it doesn't mean territorial security. The government must immediately intervene in this. The people must pressurize them.
Views were expressed on this during today's cabinet media briefing.
There has never been a regulatory body. This doesn't mean we have to foolishly say that we won't bear responsibility for this. This is our responsibility. We have to inquire into this. We must not only regret but be ashamed of the fact that we haven't had a regulatory institute since 1978. There has been no regulation on the composition of propane and butane, whether it is 70 and 30% or 50% each. Therefore, let us avoid panicking and observe this situation for 48 hours. We firmly believe that the Moratuwa University, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, the government analyst and other relevant ministries will provide a clarification on this in the next 48 hours.
Some MPs from the Samagi Janabalawegya visited the Sri Lanka Standards Institute today to inquire into the safety standards of gas cylinders.
We must be careful of gas cylinders. Those walking on the streets and those moving gas cylinders should be careful about this.
The group of MPs couldn't meet the chairperson of the Sri Lanka Standards Institute. They met with Samanthi Narangoda, the acting Deputy Director General of the SLSI.
ගෑස් වලට සම්බන්ධ ප්‍රමිති ශ්‍රී ලංකා ප්‍රමිති ආයතනය මගින් සම්පාදනය කළ තියෙනවා කියන වචනේ මම කියන්න
ඒකේ පිටපතක් අපිට ගන්න බැරිද?
පිටපතක් ගන්න පුළුවන් අපේ ලයිබ්‍රරි
මේ පුතුගේ ළඟ නැහැ.
කියන්නේ ගෑස් වලට සම්බන්ධ ශ්‍රී ලංකා ප්‍රමිති කියන්නේ සිලින්ඩර් ඒ වගේ තියෙනවා.
The 7 MPs from the Samagi Janabalawegya submitted a document to the Deputy Director of the Sri Lanka Standards Institute.
The United National Self-Employed Businessmen's Association filed a complaint with the Criminal Investigations Department today.
We have to ask the government analyst whether they are assuming that the people are fools who can be deceived always. The people in this country are buying gas cylinders with much difficulty by paying for it. We filed another complaint against the government analyst. We have filed 3 complaints since the scam surrounding gas cylinders took place in April this year.
මේ අවුරුද්දේ 4 වෙනි මාසේ ඉඳලා අපි පැමිණිලි කරනවා මේ ගෑස් සංචාව පටන් ගත්ත දවසේ ඉඳලම.
Meanwhile, Milinda Premathilaka, who experienced a gas explosion, recently filed a complaint with the Human Rights Commission and Consumer Affairs Authority. His wife, who sustained critical injuries in the explosion, is currently hospitalized.
My wife won't be able to recover from this. We don't know how many housewives will lose their lives through this. Serve justice over these incidents. It is regrettable to see that they are justifying a few gas explosions. I'm not afraid to point my finger at those politicians and say that if their spouses are critically injured through this, they will shed the same tears as I am. They will then realize the gravity of the remarks that they are making.
A look back at the lead up to the country's gas crisis. 24th of April 2021, Litrogas releases an 8-litre hybrid cylinder to the market. Consumers complain that the cylinders are running out fast. 6th of May 2021, Consumer Affairs Authority investigates the composition of gas cylinders. Litrogas and Lavsgas make multiple requests seeking to increase the price of gas cylinders as costs have increased in the world market. Lavsgas, that has a 30% market share, suspends the import of gas. 20th of June 2021, Litrogas says it is ready to distribute cylinders of any color. The chairman of Lavsgas expresses disappointment over the decision of Litrogas.
Litrogas can't distribute our product. Who will bear responsibility for any damages?
21st of June 2021, Cabinet decides that both gas companies must join hands when buying, transporting and storing gas. Cabinet agrees to appoint a special committee comprising representatives of both gas companies on the gas procurement process. 12th of August 2021, Lavsgas receives approval to increase the cost of a 12.5 kilogram cylinder by 363 rupees. Gas shortage aggravates. Long queues seen outside stores. A solution for the gas shortage. New company called Siolit formed by merging Litro and Lavsgas companies. 5th of November 2021, Litrogas chairman blames a mafia for the gas shortage, accuses them of pressurizing an extension of long-term gas supply by withholding stocks. Gas shortage continues. Reports of explosions caused by gas leaks emerge. And today, President appoints a committee to investigate and find solutions to the gas explosions. Isn't this a problem for the people's safety? Shouldn't steps be taken to address the problem for the attention of those responsible?
While fear surrounds the gas explosions in the country, 25% of the country faced a power failure last night. Ceylon Electricity Board Chairman MMC Ferdinando said he has requested the CID and the police to conduct investigations into this. The power failure had occurred while the engineers trade unions of the CEB was engaging in a work-to-rule action.
Power cuts had occurred in several areas at around 6:15 p.m. yesterday because of an issue in the transmission cables from Kothmale to the Biyagama grid substation. Ceylon Electricity Board Chairman MMC Ferdinando said this had affected the supply of electricity from 3 power stations, but the CEB had taken steps to restore the power supply in about 3 hours. The CEB chairman noted that an extensive investigation is being conducted into how the system had suffered an automatic failure. He added that he has sought the support of the police and the Criminal Investigations Department to determine whether the issue was caused intentionally. For 6 days, the Engineers Trade Union of the Ceylon Electricity Board has been staging a work-to-rule action, demanding several matters, including the cancellation of the new Fortress Agreement. The trade union said they would provide their services in emergencies as they are currently involved in stage 1 of the work-to-rule action. But the Electrical Engineers Union noted that they are planning to extend their work-to-rule action to stage 2 tomorrow. When stage 2 comes into effect, they would refrain from reporting to work during emergencies. The employees at the Ceylon Electricity Board are in a struggle to protect this country. Therefore, the problem is not leaving the people in the dark for a year. The problem is that they will have to be in darkness forever. Yesterday, the people were affected due to an automatic fault. But we know that when a country like the US is involved in our power sector, they will manipulate our country through power cuts like this. That is what we are warning the government of. This is a secret agreement. This is a threat to national security. This government wouldn't mind if the country is cursed or if the people have to be in the dark. The government is selling all assets.
Former Minister of Power and Energy Patali Champika Ranawaka issued a warning today.
Did
these incidents take place naturally, or was it the fault of the engineers? But incidents like this could occur continuously in the future. Sri Lanka could have fuel as well as coal shortages because of the dollar crisis, and also because the international community is rejecting letters of credit from Sri Lankan banks. Therefore, we will have electricity shortages in the next 6 months. We have been receiving a steady supply of electricity not because of the efficiency of the ministers. It is because Sri Lanka received the largest supply of hydropower this year. The electricity demand has decreased by about 20% due to excessive rains and the cold climate. We will face a massive shortage of electricity if we don't receive rain for 6 weeks.
We
will be back after this short commercial break. Stay with News First.
Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk.
Welcome back to the news. Farmers in Matara say that they have been affected as they were given a different type of liquid fertilizer instead of nano nitrogen fertilizer from India.
A ceremony was held recently to introduce nano-nitrogen fertilizer to the farmers of Godagama in Matara. Some Indian officials were also present, but farmers say they have not received nano-nitrogen fertilizer, although it was ceremoniously handed out during the occasion.
අවසානයේ ඉන්දියාවේ ගෙනාපු පෝර එක නෙවෙයි ලංකාවේ නිෂ්පාදනය කරපු පෝර එකක් තමයි ගොඩගම යායට ලැබුණේ.
ඉන්දියාවෙන් කටියවිල්ල මේ පෙන්නුවේ මේ නනෝ පෝරේ කියලා. මේක හම්බෙලා තියෙන ඇග්‍රොමැක්ස් කියලා වෙන පෝරක්. නගාපෙන ලක්ෂ දුන්නා වගේ වැඩක් තමයි මේ සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙන. සාක්කුවට කොට ආයෙනවා ඒක නිසා මේක දෙනවා මෙහාට. මේ ඉන්දියාවට සල්ලි දෙන්න වැඩක් නැහැ නේ එහෙමනම් මේ බෝතලේ මෙහෙ ගහනවනම්.
A national lecture on organic fertilizer was held in Colombo today under the theme Let's Provide Life to the Rich Land. The event was held under the patronage of the Agriculture Minister. The value of the President's historic decision was not perceived properly by anyone in this country. Everyone interpreted this differently. The media used a different approach to portray what we said. Dr. Padaniya of the Government Medical Officers Association is here. They blamed him. Unfortunately, we couldn't create awareness in the country on this historic decision. As a government, we should take responsibility for that.
සමාජගත කරගන්න බැරි වුණා. ඒකට ආණ්ඩුවක් හැටියට අපිත් වග කියන්නේ.
Nitrogen දියර පොහොර මිලිලීටර් 100 බෝතලයක මිල ලංකාවේ මුදලින් ඉන්දියාවේ කීයද? ඔතමලා ලංකාවට ගෙන්නුවේ කීයද? ක්ෂණිකව මේ නිෂ්පාදනය ලබා ගැනීමේදී
The maximum possible research was conducted before distributing this product. It is only later that we learned of the cost at which the product is sold in the Indian market. We then negotiated the cost with the company, obtained cabinet approval again, and then went ahead with this. The Criminal Investigations Department is conducting investigations based on a complaint it received.
පරීක්ෂණ කරනවා මේ චීන පොහොර නැවට සල්ලි ගෙවලාද තියෙන්නේ. ඒ සඳහා ගෙවීම් කිසිවක් මේ වන විට අපි කරලා නැහැ.
අපි තනකොළ මර්ධනය කරන්නේ කොහොමද?
How can we remove weeds? What is the standard we decide? Nano nitrogen has been used, but our fields are turning yellow. Farmers are asking me what steps should be taken. When paddy harvests decline by 30% in the next 3 months, when people don't have rice, and when a kilo of rice costs more than 150 rupees, we will have to find solutions by ourselves. A bottle of agrochemicals that was once sold at 2,000 or 2,900 rupees now costs 9,000 or 10,000 rupees. Urea can't be found anywhere in our area. Our crops have turned yellow. They haven't grown well either. I saw the Director General speaking to the President. The President had questioned the steps that have been taken to rectify the problems. The Director General then told the President that all farmers have already begun cultivating and that the fertilizer used 20 days into cultivation should be imported. I wish to ask the Director General, how could he make such a statement? Even our parents are suffering. There is no problem with preparing a plan after implementing something. We need to plan to move into something. Don't tell me that our time is over. This is not the 5th time but the 10th time I had to come to Colombo. I came here today although I have work. I left home at 5:20 in the morning. After coming here, if we are not allowed to speak, what's the point in coming here? We need answers. Otherwise, it will spell the end of the government, the officials, and us. Under the current situation, farmers aren't aware of anything. They don't know the decisions that are made here and what has been done. I don't know anything.
As people with a scientific and administrative background, we agree with your concerns. As agricultural scientists, we should have the chance of moving forward with these reports. If we can prepare a stable policy that doesn't change during the day, as agricultural scientists, we are ready to work for this.
Cabinet approval has been granted to import 20,000 metric tons of rice from Myanmar to maintain a buffer stock in the country.
As a government, we plan to distribute this stock through Satosa to stabilize the price of rice in the market. We have already made arrangements to sell a part of that consignment of rice at 98 rupees in the market through Satosa. We are planning on stabilizing the market price through market competition and selling rice at a reasonable price in the market.
A metric ton of rice would be imported at $460. Accordingly, the government will have to spend $9.2 million to import 20,000 metric tons of rice.
The budgetary allocations for the Health Ministry and its State Ministry were passed in Parliament without a vote today. Now, State Minister of Indigenous Medicine, lawyer Sirisena commented on the moves to legalize hemp in the country.
Just as several parliamentarians and ministers have proposed in this House on multiple occasions, we are currently moving towards a system to legalize the cultivation of traditional forms of medicine in our country. Therefore, I wish to remind you that we are currently taking all legal measures to seek the approval of Parliament in the next 3 months only to export hemp.
State Minister Arundika Fernando says the government should acquire local and foreign companies in Sri Lanka that don't support the government's work plan.
මම හැමදාම කියන එකක් තමයි මේ හාල් මාෆියාකාරයෝ කීප දෙනෙක් ඉස්සර ආණ්ඩුව දරනවන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඒකට ආණ්ඩුවක් ඕනේ නැහැ.
The government shouldn't bow down to the rice mafia. We don't need a government to do that. Therefore, we need to take over these companies that store rice and distribute their stocks amongst the public. We must acquire their companies that are maintaining exorbitant profit margins and exploiting the public. The same applies to local as well as multinational companies. Dairy companies and wheat flour companies are not prepared to support the government during these difficult times. The time has come to put an end to this exploitation. That is the problem with the gas industry. We must find a sustainable solution to this and move on, or else we will have a clash between these private companies and the government. That is the policy of the Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna. We will clash and defeat any force that is against the government, regardless of whether it is a private organization or a multinational company. These forces must be dealt with to ensure it's the people who benefit in the end.
සමාගම් වෙන්න පුළුවන්, දේශීය සමාගම් වෙන්න පුළුවන්, බහුජාතික සමාගම් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එයාත් එක්ක හැප්පිලා හරි ජනතාවට මේ සහනය ලබා දෙන්න.
While State Minister Arundhika Fernando issued a warning to companies, Opposition MP Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca said Sri Lanka is currently sinking in a Chinese debt trap just like Uganda. In a statement on Facebook, the opposition parliamentarian said Uganda has lost its only international airport as it could not settle a loan to China. Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca said these are the results of stubborn decisions made by corrupt leaders to borrow massive loans from China without a national plan. He also warned that Sri Lanka could also face the result of a power struggle in the region due to the unnecessary construction of the Hambantota port instead of developing the Colombo port. Meanwhile, the Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka has tweeted that China had saved Sri Lanka from the Western debt trap. It said Sri Lanka had decided to raise much-needed dollars by leasing out the Hambantota port in 2017 and used it to settle international sovereign bonds and not to pay off loans to China's Exim Bank.
Why don't they want to seek help from the International Monetary Fund? They are saying that the IMF will impose various conditions and that the people will be affected. They are saying that they'll have to cut down on relief programs. But what did Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa do? Isn't he the one who cancelled the fertilizer subsidy? Basil Rajapaksa has already done what they're afraid the IMF will ask them to do. The price of essential goods is increasing every day. Basil Rajapaksa has said in a cabinet meeting that he cannot control market prices, but that he will uplift the country's economy where people can afford those products. What sort of a foolish argument is this? The government doesn't have the ability to drag the country out of this mess. They don't have people with the capacity to work their way out of this. That is why the country is in an utter mess. They are saying that this is happening because they don't have dollars. They are saying that people's gas cylinders won't explode if the government had dollars to import and supply according to international standards. Withholding dollars is not how a government looks after the needs of the people. Reserving dollars so that a selected few can earn an 80% profit is not public welfare. They are saying that the IMF will impose various conditions that will affect the people. But the IMF only imposes conditions on the government's financial discipline. Is the International Monetary Fund the solution for Sri Lanka's economic crisis? Minister Bimal Weerarwansa had this to say. The central bank governor and the finance ministry have said that they don't hope to do that. If we go to the International Monetary Fund, they will ask for the central bank to be made a private entity, cut down on salaries of employees in the public sector and reduce government expenditure. They will ask us to halt welfare programs such as the Samruddhi allowance. If the people are happy with these conditions, then we can go to the IMF. It is easy to go to the IMF, but we only realize the difficulties when we start implementing the conditions of the IMF. We will realize that we have dug our own grave.
The Health Ministry has issued a new set of COVID-19 guidelines today. According to the guidelines, the number of guests permitted at an indoor wedding has been increased from 100 to 200. An outdoor wedding can have up to 250 guests. Exhibitions and conventions can be held with a participation of up to 150 people. The revised guidelines also allow up to 100 people at a restaurant and 150 people for outdoor dining. These guidelines will be applicable until the 15th of December. You can log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk for the full guidelines. In more news, Sri Lankan High Commissioner to India Milinda Morogoda explored avenues of further augmenting defence and security cooperation with India when he met the Defence Minister of India, Sri Rajnath Singh, in New Delhi today.
The Defence Minister of India and the High Commissioner of Sri Lanka discussed a range of issues, reviewing the existing excellent defence and security ties between the two countries. High Commissioner Morogoda thanked the Defence Minister for the support that the Indian defence establishment has been extending to Sri Lanka over the years in many spheres. He thanked India for assisting in controlling the disastrous fires on board MT New Diamond and MV Express Pearl off the coast of Sri Lanka, which would have resulted in unimaginable marine pollution in the region had they not been controlled in a timely and efficient manner. The two dignitaries took note of the annual bilateral joint military and naval exercises and discussed avenues through which the existing bilateral defence and security cooperation could be further strengthened.
Former Minister Sirisena Kures passed away while receiving treatment at a private hospital in Colombo.
Sirisena Kures is known in politics for providing unconditional support to protect his leader during difficult times. He entered politics as an activist from the Colombo Central region, representing the United National Party. Sirisena Kures served as the mayor of Colombo from 1979 to 1989. He entered parliament in 1989 and rendered great support to the Gammudava program of Ranasinghe Premadasa during his tenure as Minister of Local Government, Housing and Construction. He is popular for his instrumental role during Ranasinghe Premadasa's presidential campaign and for guiding the United National Party while being its General Secretary at a time of fear. Sirisena Kure retired from active politics after the demise of Ranasinghe Premadasa and was since involved in many social welfare programs. He was 90 years old at the time of his demise.
Chairmen of several Pradesh Sabhas in the Putlam district have opposed the conduct of district organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, State Minister Sanat Nishantha. They allege that the construction of certain houses in the district has been done in an unjust manner.
A group of members and chairmen of Anamaduwa, Navagattegama and Karuwalagaswawa Pradesh Sabhas arrived at the Putlam district office of the National Housing Development Authority this morning. They alleged that the Putlam district manager of the National Housing Development Authority is behaving according to the whims and fancies of State Minister Sanat Nishantha. The group pointed out that the district office has provided houses under the influence of the State Minister instead of constructing houses in the selected areas.
Now we are the people who are being battered by the party. We are the people who made the party victorious, but we can't even enter villages at present. As the chairman, I spoke to the president when he visited Anamaduwa. I don't know whether he was attentive to what I said. No decision has been reached in this regard. He is the district organizer. Is he enough? Don't you need other politicians in the district? Those were the directives that we received. Let us join hands with all of you and carry out further affairs from today onwards. You coordinate with me and we can engage in these affairs together.
The group of members and chairmen of the Pradesh Sabhas remained in the district manager's office with the expectation of receiving a letter of what he promised them. Thereafter, the group left the office premises by smashing coconuts on the ground.
We don't expect a favourable response because the district manager is scared of State Minister Sanat Nishantha. If we don't get the answers that we seek, we will join the people and make our demands.
12 minor parties that supported the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna say the SLPP has neglected their opinions when making decisions. The ex-Sri Lanka Podujana Paksha, Arunalu Janata Peramuna, Ape Jana Urumaya, Samaja Sangwardana Paksha, Jatika Mahajana Paksha, Mahajana Sangwardana Paksha, Helabima Janata Paksha, ex-Sri Lanka Janabala Paksha, Sri Lanka Indian Citizens Party are some of the parties that are among the 12 parties. We worked together with the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna to bring this president into power. We gave our fullest support. We have a major issue. They are not paying attention to any of our concerns. If the government continues on this path, then the people of this country will be heavily affected. That cannot happen. We are not prepared to accept that fate. And we are not prepared to be silent while chaos erupts. We will do everything we can to proceed in the right direction. If we cannot walk that path together, then we will have to part ways.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and MP Ranil Wickremesinghe are to attend the Indian Ocean Conference from the 3rd to the 5th of December in Abu Dhabi. The President is the chairman of the organising committee of the conference, while MP Ranil Wickremesinghe is a past chairman. The conference will be held under the theme Indian Ocean, Ecology, Economy, Epidemic. Ranil Wickremesinghe will address the Indian Ocean Conference on the 5th of December. Indian Foreign Minister S. Jayashankar, Singapore Foreign Minister V. Balakrishnan and several other diplomats will attend the event.
Meanwhile, former MP Naveen Disanayaka expressed his views on the recent resignation of Arjuna Ranatunga from the United National Party.
I express my regret over this decision. On a policy basis, even I agree on certain aspects he has mentioned in his resignation letter, especially the last few paragraphs in that letter. He has proposed for a complete reform within the party and not just a temporary one. We can see that some hopes have been lost. The party leadership must agree to have an honest decision and then make the changes. Temporary changes or shuffling positions is not what is required. The party should be restructured completely from the top to the bottom.
Trade unions in the health sector engaged in a vehicle parade in Colombo today. They complained that their salary anomalies haven't been resolved through the budget.
Professionals Collective organized a vehicle parade in Colombo today, making many demands including not resolving their salary anomalies through the 2022 budget. The vehicle parade started from the Colombo Municipal Council. Thereafter, the parade arrived at the Presidential Secretariat through Colombo Fort. Their final destination was the Vihara Mahadevi Park. Please amend this budget. Basil Rajapaksa said in Parliament that he is ready to amend it, citing that there are issues pertaining to the health sector of the country. He said the existing anomalies will be removed. What we requested was to implement the recommendations of the Ranugge Committee. What we requested was to rectify the overtime anomalies. We requested them to give the graduates the place they deserve. We are also requesting to reduce the price of medicine. If these demands are not met, we are ready to launch a strike action. We will stop issuing reports from tomorrow onwards. We will stop issuing any report to the Ministry of Health.
The Centre for Policy Alternatives says the government's steps to curtail the right to peaceful protest has not been in accordance with the constitution of the country.
In a statement, the Centre for Policy Alternatives think tank said the government has shown hypocritical and collateral intentions in its attempts to curtail the right to peaceful protest. It added that the increasing trend towards using the COVID-19 health crisis as a pretext to suppress dissent is deeply concerning and must be stopped. The think tank noted that the right to protest is an important feature of a democratic society that facilitates civic engagement beyond voting at elections. It said the arrests and forcible quarantine of protesters highlight instances of the misuse of quarantine regulations to quell dissent. The statement said this has significant implications for rights and freedoms relating to assembly, association and speech. It added that in a country with a rich history of expression through protest, it is important that people are not silenced and their right to protest is upheld and respected.
The Express Pearl tragedy resulted the spillage of estimated 70 to 75 billion noodles into the Sea of Sri Lanka and along the Sri Lankan coastline. This was highlighted in a study published in the Environmental Journal of the American Chemical Society.
The study added that because the properties of the unburnt and burnt noodles are different, the spill almost amounts to two separate spills that potentially call for different cleanup strategies. The study notes that the fire increased the chemical complexity of the plastics up to threefold and that burnt noodles could camouflage among the natural materials and could break into even smaller pieces because of their brittleness. The key messages of the study include the fact that some of the burnt noodles don't even look like plastic anymore, and this should be considered during the cleanup. The study suggested building an international collaboration in a time of crisis to work faster to get the answers that are crucial for supporting the recovery efforts. The study highlighted the fact that while there have been massive releases of noodles from container ships in the past, the Express Pearl tragedy was different. It added, unlike previous Noodles spills, this spill released burnt plastic, which is a type of litter that has only recently been documented in the ocean. Researchers have noted that the burnt plastic poses uncertainties for response activities, its fate and transport, and its potential impact on wildlife.
Earlier this month, cabinet approval was granted to make Sri Lankan cinema and industry. Will this move cast a ray of hope on Sri Lanka against the backdrop of its dire economic straits, or are we too late? Newsfirst, Tarusha Singh has the answers.
In line with the cabinet approval, the Department of Government Information in a release said that a large number of unique films have been created within Sri Lankan cinema, while Sri Lanka has bestowed a number of eminent and renowned cinematographers to the global cinema. The release said that a number of benefits can be achieved, such as generation of a number of livelihoods, the occurrence of a social and cultural as well as an economic modification, as well as assisting in tourism and education sectors through improvement and promotion of the cinema industry, whereas it would assist the economy of the country with considerable amounts. The Department of Government Information added that it has been observed that cinema in most countries in the world has been improved with the recognition of cinema as an industry. Cinema is a multi-million-dollar industry everywhere else in the world except in Sri Lanka. Now that it has become an industry, it certainly has the potential to be one. But what are the obstacles that lie ahead of us? What are the things that we should be mindful of in the long run? This is what some of the experts in the industry had to say about this.
SMEs, they have a lot of loan schemes for startup industries and also in different stages, and those things we don't get. But there are some concessions. Electricity bill, for an example, for industries it's at a concessionary rate, but for cinema theaters it's not. Now, since it is an industry, we can apply those things to cinema industry as well.
In the United States, there is something called insurance. People who work in the industry, they get an insurance. When they retire, they have some kind of retirement. So I am sure this will help people to have a sort of a better retirement than just suddenly going and, not to be seen, or they don't have a life anymore.
Let the industry go on its own. That is, industry means making a product for sale. There has to be a return of investment. So we must pay mind to all that. If we do, then the industry will prosper. There's no reason why it cannot prosper. Entertainment, whether it's in Hollywood, whether it's in UK, India, it's booming. We can do whatever they do in America, whatever they do in UK. There's no excuse anymore.
But we need to keep in mind that Sri Lanka has the talent, Sri Lanka has the technology, Sri Lanka has the knowledge, and most importantly, Sri Lanka has a worldwide audience waiting to see what we do next. Can cinema in Sri Lanka, now an industry, at least provide an iota of relief to the dire economic straits in the country? Can the cinema industry in Sri Lanka generate enough revenue to revive the economy of the country? I'm afraid we have to wait for the answers. Some people might argue that this decision to declare cinema as an industry came in way late, but we always have to remember that always it is better late than never. Signing off, it's Tarusha Singh for Newsfirst.
And that's a wrap of this edition of Primetime News. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Azwa Hassan. Thank you for